He rises before the sun does. In the uppermost chamber of the tallest structure the ancient world has ever built, Callinicus feeds the fire as a priest feeds a god. With cedar and resin, with oil pressed from the groves of the delta, with 30 years of unbroken devotion, the great bronze mirror catches the newborn flame and hurls it 40 miles across the wine-dark sea, a second sun conjured by mortal hands. Salt crusts his beard. Smoke has permanently darkened the creases of his palms. He moves through the heat and roar with the quiet certainty of a man who has forgotten there is any other life to live. The Pharos is his world entire, his monastery, his sentence, his salvation. But tonight, for the first time in 3 decades, someone wants the fire to die. Then, on a September morning that begins like any other, the eastern horizon fractures. Callinicus sees them first. A forest of masts, Roman sails heavy with Mediterranean wind, cutting through the blue-green swells in disciplined formation. Below, the harbor of Alexandria convulses. Merchants abandon their counting tables. Gulls scatter from the quays in panicked white clouds. The smell of brine and cedar pitch sharpens somehow, as though the air itself holds its breath. These are not Alexandrian grain ships or Nabatean traders seeking shelter. This is Roman iron, Roman will. Callinicus watches the fleet carve toward the great harbor with the unhurried certainty of fate, and 30 years of quiet routine dissolve around him like sea spray. He does not yet know that somewhere in the city below, someone is already sharpening their plans against the flame. Deep within the Pharos, where the granite stairwell coils like the spine of some ancient serpent, Callinicus freezes. Above him, torchlight bleeds through a crack in the stone, and with it, voices. He presses himself against the cold wall, his sandals silent on the worn steps, his breath a ghost. The smell reaches him first, something acrid beneath the cedar oil, something wrong, a bitter mineral sharpness that does not belong among the familiar resins and pitch of the lamp room. His weathered hands find the wall for steadiness. He is 61 years old, and he knows every scent this tower breathes. This is poison. The fuel has already been prepared. The flame he has kept alive through 30 winters, 30 floods, 30 dynasties of grief, is already dying. And midnight is only hours away. The papyrus is brittle now, its edges crumbling like the empire it once served. Callinicus holds it close to the flame, his flame, and reads the words he has memorized across 1,000 sleepless nights. His patron is ash and memory, yet the oath endures, pressed into his chest like a stone. Alexandria, above all rulers. He thinks of Caesar's galleys riding the black harbor, of Roman sandals on Egyptian marbles, of a queen who smiles at conquerors to survive them. Is the flame a gift to Egypt, or a lantern held for her captors? The olive oil hisses. Salt wind moves through the tower like a ghost. He presses the papyrus flat against his heart, and in that silence, history holds its breath, waiting to learn what a single, aging keeper will choose to do with the darkness. In the oil hold beneath the tower's base, the night presses close as a burial shroud. Callinicus descends the worn limestone steps and stops, his sandal heel catching the slick of something dark and acrid spreading across the cedar planking. The smell hits him first. Bitter almonds threaded through the cedar-sweet perfume of rendered castor oil. Poison, not merely in the fuel, death itself, measured and deliberate, pooling toward the great iron cisterns. A figure crouches at the far cistern, clay amphora tilted, hands moving with the practiced calm of a man who believes himself unseen. Callinicus presses his spine against cold stone, every muscle commanding silence. His breath becomes a prayer. He cannot cry out. He cannot flee. 30 years of tended flame balance on this single suspended heartbeat, and the night is only beginning. The flame shudders. For the first time in 30 years, the great bronze mirror of the Pharos reflects something unthinkable. Darkness gathering at its own heart. The poisoned cedar oil creeps through the channels like a slow betrayal, and the beacon that has guided 10,000 ships begins to die, breath by breath. Below, in the black harbor, Caesar's galleys drift blind. Callinicus moves with the desperate certainty of a man who has spent a lifetime preparing for a moment he prayed would never come. From behind a sealed limestone alcove, his hands drag forth the ancient cache. Pure Cyrenaican oil, untouched for decades, preserved against catastrophe. His palms blister as he works. The smell of scorched stone fills the tower. The flame drops to a whisper. And then Callinicus makes his choice. And then, light. A column of fire erupts from the Pharos summit with volcanic fury, shattering the darkness across 12 miles of open sea. The bronze mirrors, realigned by trembling hands, hurl their blazing testimony into the void. On the flagship's rain-slicked deck, Julius Caesar, conqueror of Gaul, master of Rome, grips the rail and stares upward, his weathered face bathed gold. His helmsman wrenches the steering oar hard to starboard. The hull groans. White water churns against limestone reef inches from the keel. The fleet breathes again. Oars bite. Hulls find deep water. The beacon holds, unwavering, ancient, absolute. A civilization refusing to be extinguished by the ambitions of desperate men. But even as the ships find safe harbor, someone in Alexandria is already asking who kept the flame alive, and why. Dawn breaks pale and salt-stung over the Heptastadion, and with it come the Romans. Iron-shod sandals grinding against limestone, crimson cloaks catching the first copper light. They climb the Pharos in silence, 7 soldiers and a tribune who has never looked upon anything so ancient and does not know it. Callinicus stands at the apex, oil-blackened hands folded, smoke still threading from his beard. He has tended this flame through famine, through flood, through the deaths of 3 Ptolemaic kings. He knows how to wait. The tribune demands answers. The old keeper offers his eyes, steady, unreadable, worn smooth by 3 decades of wind and fire. He gives the empire just enough truth to satisfy its appetite, and withholds the rest, like a priest concealing a relic. But somewhere below, in the restless harbor, the conspirators are not finished. Dawn breaks over the eastern harbor in shades of copper and pale amber. The fleet of Caesar rides at anchor, intact, unbroken. Below the tower, Alexandria stirs, bread sellers, scribes, a city exhaling its held breath into the salt morning air. Callinicus stands at the parapet, his hands raw, the smell of cedar resin and burning pitch still woven into his skin like scripture. 30 years of fire have carved themselves into his face. The beacon above him turns slowly, indifferently, as it always has, casting its ancient, patient light across water that nearly swallowed everything. The city is preserved. But preservation is not permanence. Somewhere in the marbled corridors below, a queen and a general are remaking the architecture of power, and the lighthouse, Callinicus knows, has only bought them time. The empires argue below. Fleets maneuver. Dynasties tremble at the edge of a Roman shadow. And yet Callinicus climbs. He always climbs. 30 years have worn the limestone steps smooth beneath his sandaled feet, and he knows each one the way a man knows his own breathing. He feeds the mirror, fire its cedar and pitch, coaxing the flame with the patience of someone who understands that civilization is not built by conquerors. It is kept alive by the quiet ones who remain. The beacon swells. Out across the black Mediterranean, 1,000 sailors lift their eyes toward Pharos and navigate home. Callinicus watches the light push back the darkness, as it has done every night of his long life. Some flames history will not extinguish. Some men it cannot afford to lose.